Hi everyone, it's Jay here, and today I'm going to review the manga and manhwa I read in May. I only read 12 volumes. I was in a bit of a reading slump in May, but by the end of May, I was out of it. I started the month by reading The Abandoned Empress volumes 8 and 9. I had already read volume 8, but I needed a reminder of what had happened before I started this one. The story follows Aristia, a child of prophecy who is to marry Revelis, the future emperor. But when a second person appears, June from another world, who also was prophesied to be empress, Aristia watches as her fiancé goes off with this new girl and she gets left behind. Her life turns quite awful after this, and it leads to her death. When I say awful, Revelis is utterly horrible, and I really hate him. Volume 1 does a really good job of introducing the main characters and getting across to you just how awful Aristia has it. But then she's reborn into her teens with the knowledge of what happens in the future, and she's determined not to let it happen again. So this is the final volume of the series, and the cover kind of gives it all away. But I don't want to go into spoilers too much. I would like to do a more in-depth opinion piece for this series as a separate video. Whilst I don't hate the pairing we get, I was rooting for another pairing. But you can't always get what you want. Overall, this was a good volume. I think there was enough material for this series to be 10 volumes long, because there were parts towards the end that seemed rushed, especially when you consider how many different storylines had been woven together. I would have liked to have known what happened to Elendis. He just seemed to disappear from the story. I like the ending with what happened between the main characters, although I did struggle a bit with Jiun's motivations. I would recommend this series to anyone who likes a story where the protagonist is reborn and is given a second chance at their life. I think the art is very pretty, I love the covers, and I always look forward to picking up the next volume when it was being released, which is a sign of a good story. I read a one-shot romance called Home Office Romance. This is by Kintetsu Yamada, who did Sweat and Soap. The first thing I noticed was that it hadn't been put together well. The cover was too small. And whilst it's a small thing, stuff like this does annoy me a little bit. Thankfully, the story itself was better than the physical putting together of the book. In fact, I loved it. It's about two neighbours in an apartment complex who fall in love during the COVID lockdown. When Nokaru is told to work at home due to COVID, he suddenly has all this free time because he doesn't have to commute to and from work, which gives him a chance to explore some of his hobbies, redo his apartment, and spruce up his balcony. And his balcony catches the eye of his neighbour, Natsu. From there they become friends, and more. I found this book to be sweet and a really enjoyable read. It's two ordinary adults navigating a growing relationship with all the typical issues you might expect. The thing I really liked about this was that it wasn't overly dramatised or full of big miscommunications. There are issues that realistically crop up in relationships, and I love how these two deal with them. The honesty between the two was refreshing. I found myself cheering, yay, a healthy adult relationship. I wholeheartedly recommend this one-shot. I started a new series called Dogs Red. Ro was a figure skater who had so much potential, but after his mum died in a car crash, his emotions ran high in a competition. The resulting violence ended any potential future career, and he and his sister end up moving to Hokkaido to live with their grandpa. The high school Ro ends up in has an ice hockey team, but they barely have enough team members to play the final game of the season. Ro ends up playing ice hockey to help with numbers, and it is pretty funny. He has skills on the ice, but not playing hockey, so there are some humorous moments, as well as some emotional ones. I was actually surprised by how emotional I got when I saw how much of an underdog team this was. They were just desperate to score 1 point in the game. Just one. It was really well done, I have to say. I'm intrigued to see how the story plays out moving forward. Key players have been highlighted, one in particular hates him. There's a history between Ro and his sister, Harina, which I want to know more about because there's a lot more going on there than we've been told about so far. She has been set up to be an emotionally interesting character, and I hope it is elaborated on more and not just brushed to the side. Overall, I enjoyed this first volume. It had an underdog theme throughout that I loved, and I will definitely be buying the second volume, which is out in June 2025. I read Scarlet Secret, a fantasy BL one-shot by Tomo Serizawa, who did Snow Fairy and White Liar. I loved Snow Fairy, and so I was looking forward to reading this, and it did not disappoint. Shiki and Yamato grew up together in a village. Shiki has crimson eyes and was great at predicting the weather, but he was bullied by the other children. Yamato is the chieftain's son, and he always defended Shiki, seeing him as a close friend. But one day, in a ritual performed by the shamaness, the ruler of the kingdom, Shiki is taken away and Yamato swears to find him again one day. When they do eventually meet, Shiki is not the same and can no longer act on any human desire without angering the gods. I'll say no more about the story, but the setup is great and the art was beautiful. Yamato's tattoos were really cool, and I found the premise of the story very interesting. Shiki is torn between his duties to the kingdom and the gods, and his growing feelings for Yamato. I'd recommend this manga to anyone who loves a well-written BL, and I'd recommend Snow Fairy too. It's a perfect winter read. I read Cherry Blossoms After Winter, Volumes 1 and 2. 1 was a reread, so I had the story fresh in my mind for reading this one. It follows Haebum and Taesung, who were childhood friends until Haebum's parents died, and he moved in with Taesung's family. But Taesung grows cold and their friendship dies. Volume 1 begins in the senior year of high school, and the two being in the same class for the first time. I really enjoyed Volume 1, and Volume 2 was just as good. The angst in this series is beautifully done. Haebum has had a hard time, but he also gets on with life and is grateful for what he does have in his life. There's a line near the start of the book that broke my heart. It was so sad, and Haebum said it so casually, as if it wasn't a big deal, but it is. There are some flashbacks to when they were younger, and we get to see what their mums were like. I was very surprised with this part, and it's amazing just how much some characters have changed. I found this volume to be more emotional than the first, with Haebum experiencing quite a few changes both at school and at home, as well as his changing relationship with Taesung. It's all quite a lot for him. I cannot wait for Volume 3, which is coming out in November 2025. Such a long wait. But it will be worth it. I also forgot to mention the art. The colour palette used is unique and very beautiful. It makes the panels more cohesive and the pastel shades are just perfect. Definitely recommend this series. We finally got Volume 5 of My Happy Marriage. It has been a long wait since Volume 4 came out in September 2023, so I reread the first 4 volumes before reading Volume 5. In this one, Mio meets her grandfather and cousin from her mother's side of the family, the Usuba clan. It all goes wrong very quickly, with the clan having certain expectations of her due to her family name. Whilst I won't go into specifics, I will say that I liked how the family characters were portrayed, and their reasoning explained. It's not just these guys are bad. They too have had certain expectations made of them all their lives, and that is why they act the way they do. And if things couldn't go more wrong, they do. Kudo does not have a good time in this volume, and it ends on a cliffhanger, which is great because there's no sign of a 6th volume. Not even a blank space on the Square Enix website with a cover coming soon. So who knows how long it's going to take. So those are the volumes I read in May 2025. I didn't read much, but everything I did read I enjoyed. I'm sad to have finished The Abandoned Empress. I loved reading it when new volumes were released, and I was really happy with my one-shot choices as well. Sometimes I find one-shots lacking due to the limited number of pages in which characters can grow and develop, but Home Office Romance and Scarlet Secret were both great. If you want to buy any of these, check out sci-fi.com, who always reduce the RRP on manga and manhwa volumes, and if you use the code Jay'sManga, you'll get an extra 5% off. Let me know what you've read recently. Do you have any recommendations for me? Please do like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Happy reading, everyone. Bye!